Just because I bought a MacBook Pro doesn't mean I'm going to become one of those Apple fanboys overnight. Guys, I bought an iPhone. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Lost in the Specific. Please do subscribe and share, and then I can keep giving you the content. I want to thank you for your support so far, all 30 of you. Okay, it's 2020, and I just bought the iPhone 7. Now, this is my first ever Apple iPhone I've ever had, and yes, it kind of was born out of the fact I bought a MacBook, which was my first ever Apple product that I'd owned, and I'm falling in love with it. I'm getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the ecosystem. Please help me get out. Now, it's 2020. Since the iPhone 7's release back in 2017, we've had the iPhone 8, the iPhone 8 Plus, the iPhone X, the iPhone XR, the iPhone XS, the iPhone blah 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 blah, the iPhone 11, the iPhone 11 Pro, and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. And now we've got the iPhone SE 2020 edition. So, why the iPhone 7? First and foremost, I picked this up for around about $125. So, it's a used one. I'll say that again, $125, which is a great reason to buy an iPhone. And as this was my first venture into the iPhone market, I've been an Android user, and I said for years it's because Android was vastly superior. Just couldn't afford an iPhone. I mean, they're $1,000. What do you take me for, a hustler? But I wanted the iPhone SE 2020, but before getting into that, I thought, well, I'll see what I feel about iOS, what I feel about the Apple phones, and I'll get a cheap version. That'll keep me going. And once I'm satisfied that I'm happy with it, then I'll take the plunge into the iPhone SE, or who knows, one of the more flagship models. But one thing I do actually like about the iPhone 7, and also the iPhone 8 and iPhone SE really, is it's got a 4.7-inch display. I am not someone who has subscribed or really got on board with these big, massive displays. It's now you've got 5.8, 6, 7, 7.5 inch smartphones, which are just ridiculously big. You know, if I'm walking around with a 6-inch smartphone in my pocket, that's 18 inches in my pants all day. Do you think they'll get it? Because 6 plus 12, and the 12 is referring to my... And it's just too much. I mean, and I haven't got the biggest of hands. I've spoken about this before when I told you about the Palm phone. If you've not seen that video. So I don't want a phone that I can't use in one hand. Now, the 3.3-inch screen on the Palm phone is nice, but it can be a little bit problematic when you're trying to type. So this was the perfect option for me. And it's got iOS 13, so it's got the latest edition of iOS. Many believe it will be supported with iOS at least into late 2021. Some believe 2022, but we'll have to wait and see. That would be over the traditional 5 years of support Apple usually gives its products. And I've had the phone now for a week, and I've got to say, I love it. I love the iPhone. It's so easy to use. It's got older hardware. I think this has got the A9 chip in, 2 gigs of RAM, which by today's phone standards, especially with the flagships, which this one's was, it's really not the best in terms of hardware. Before we get too strung up on what it can do inside, its real life performance is great. It's snippy, it does everything I want, and yeah, it's just a really great user experience, and things work, things function. AirDrop's so cool. I can just take a picture on my phone, slam it to the MacBook without any complications whatsoever, and I really do like that feature. Battery life. Okay, so everybody wants to know if they can get a full day's usage out of it. The question to ask here really is, what do you define as a full day's usage? Is a full day's usage the fact that you take it off charge when you wake up and you don't have to charge it again until you go back to bed? Or is a full day's usage kind of like 8 hours stuck on the phone doing whatever you need to do? For me, it's the former. You know, I see a full day's usage as unplugging it and replugging it, unplugging in the morning, replugging in the evening. And I checked, and I got around about 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours of screen time with this. Now, I know that's going to be off-putting for a lot of people. They want that 8 hours screen time. I don't want to be looking at my screen for 8 hours a day. I mean, think about it. 8 hours is half of your waking day. Why do you want to be looking at a digital screen? It makes no sense. And my daily average usage is 2 hours. That allows me to do some FaceTiming, some texting, and that's it really. I'm not a heavy user, so this can easily last me all day long without me having to have any anxiety of the battery running out or it going dead on me at the worst possible moment. And even then, when I put it back on charge in the evening, I've still got around about 20-25% of battery left in, and for me that's great. And if it keeps getting iOS support, then at least for the next 2 years, for $125, you really can't go wrong. You know, it's less than $10 a month to have the latest software that's given by Apple on their smartphones and a really well-performing smartphone as well. So the question is, should you buy the iPhone 7 in 2020? If you don't need the best screen, at least in regards to today's competition, if you don't need to be on your phone for extended periods throughout the day, and you're more of a moderate to minimalist user, buy the iPhone 7. You can pick them up cheap. If they've looked after the device, then you can still get them in really good condition. And yeah, you won't have that experience of going to the Apple store and someone in a blue shirt called Tiffany with more knowledge about Apple than really is normal, giving you the full experience, and you walking out with your bag and like someone taking a picture of you walking out. You won't have all that, okay? It'll just be some dude who drops it off on a bike at like 10 o'clock at night when he said he'd be here at 7. But who cares? You don't need all that. What you do get is a very high functional phone that lets you do everything that you need to do, and you'll enjoy it. But yeah, if you need the big screen, if you need the brightest screen, if you like to play games on it all day, probably don't go with the iPhone 7. But if you're a moderate, conservative user, great little phone that. I love it. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do subscribe and share. I'll be back next time whenever I can be bothered, and I'll see you then.